Welcome to another lesson on Patton Cloud support for call reporting. Patton devices are now able to send call detail records to the cloud. The cloud evaluates the calls and their quality in real time and shows call information in the cloud user interface. And now, with call reporting, we can set call-based alerts. The Patton Cloud's alerting system is able to observe all call detail records coming from the devices if you configure the system to do so. By default, no alerts based on calls are enabled, so you have to create any alerts that you want yourself. Let's see how to do this. On the Alerts menu on the left-hand side, choose the Rules submenu to see a list of all the rules that are already present in the system. To help you get started, we have created some templates for some of the common use cases for call-based alerts. Let's look at a couple of them. Click on the Show Templates button in the top right here to show all the templates that we provide. For example, we have these emergency call templates that trigger an alert when someone dials the emergency number in your region. Also, we have a Failed Calls template, which triggers when a call fails. We have a Poor Quality Calls template here that is triggered when a call has a quality assessment that is poor. For this example, let's use the emergency call template for the U.S. region that triggers an alert when the number 911 is called. To use a template, you click on the right-hand side menu and choose Duplicate to make a copy of that alert rule. And by duplicating it, it immediately enters the alert rule editor where you can make changes to the alert before saving it. Typically, you don't have to change anything for this particular template. Just press Save, and it should be fine for the U.S. region. But let's go through the tabs and talk about some of the parameters you can set here anyway, so you can see what you can actually change. First of all, we can set the severity of the alert, which we can leave for now at emergency, since it is actually an emergency call. We click Next to get to the Target tab, where we can specify what is the target of the watch condition that we are setting up. In this example, we want to observe calls. And in terms of scope, we want all the calls in that organization to potentially trigger an alert. Here is where you have the option to change the scope of the alert. Perhaps it is only for a certain number of devices, certain devices in your organization, but let's set it for all devices at the moment. Also, we don't want to restrict the time of day. An emergency alert should be always active. Let's click Next to go to the Trigger Condition tab. Here you specify what values the objects in the database that are a part of this rule must have to actually trigger the alert. Now, for calls, this is a little bit different than for other objects like devices or users. For devices and users, you can create a state-based alert, meaning you can trigger an alert based on the current state of an object. So, for example, you can say, if the device is offline, then trigger an alert. And this will trigger an alert even if the device went offline before you actually created the alert rule. For calls, on the other hand, everything is event-based, and you actually have to create an expression that contains one of those events. For calls, we have 3 events. We have started, connected, and ended. The started event is triggered when the call is placed. The connected event is triggered when the call party picks up the phone. And the ended event is triggered when the call is terminated. So the start and the ended events are triggered for all calls, while the connected event is only triggered when the called party actually picks up the phone. Now for a 911 or an emergency call, it's important that we trigger the alert when the call is placed to the emergency service, so we select Call Started as the event. And then we combine this with the property of the call. The call's to number, the called party number, must be equal to 911. So this is the place where you can configure the trigger condition and adapt it to your region. What you can also do is alert aggregation. This is disabled by default in the template, but here you could say, I only want to have one alert per device, and unless I acknowledge this alert or reset the alert, all further 911 calls on the same device will be aggregated into the same alert, and you will not be notified anymore. This is Patton Cloud's way of managing the proliferation of alerts. So if you expect a lot of calls with your specified trigger condition, then you can use aggregation to reduce the number of alerts that are generated and the number of emails sent out, and so on. On the next page, we can specify what the reset condition is for an alert. In this case, we want the user to manually reset the alert if it is triggered. Next is the Trigger Actions tab. The trigger action is to play a sound and send a Slack message. We are fine with that. Note that you can also enter a message here. This becomes the title of the alert. The template proposes an initial message, emergency call from, and then the calling party number, so that you know who called the emergency service. But you can change this. You can also insert other variables about the call, like the call type, and so on. And that's it for this tab. On the next tab, we have the acknowledgement actions, which for this template are send a Slack message. And then we have the Reset Actions tab, where we play a reset sound and send a Slack message. And finally, we have the Summary tab, which allows us to review everything that we have just set. If everything is good, then we press Save, and now the alert rule is active. Let's hide the templates, and now we can see the Emergency Call US Alert rule listed here in our organization. Now, as soon as we trigger an emergency call for test purposes, this alarm should pop up. Remember that the alert system of the Patton Cloud may have a delay of 10 to 30 seconds, so expect the alert to be triggered in this 30-second time window. And now let's create an emergency call. And we already have our emergency alert right here. We can also see here that the emergency call from number 800 has appeared. So if we click on that, we see the alert summary. It was a call from 800 to 911 on this device in our organization. We can now click on the call itself to get to the call page of that call to see further details. Let's also look at the other templates that we have for calls. So with the failed call template, here the trigger condition is that the call has ended and that the call status is equal to failed. And finally, let's look at the poor quality calls template. Here the trigger condition is also that the call must have ended, so that's the event that triggers the alert, and the condition that we have set here is that the quality class of the call is equal to poor. Now you don't have to use templates. At any time you can create your own new alert rule. Just click on the Create Alert Rule button. And then if you want to create a call-based alert, the important thing is to select Call for your target resource. And then for the trigger condition, select either Ended, Started, or Connected as the event. And then choose any call state that you want to observe as a condition of the rule. For example, you can create an alert rule where the duration of the call is greater than 1 hour, so 3,600 seconds. All right, and that's a look at how you can set up and manage your own call-based alert rules. Please watch our other call reporting lessons to learn more about this feature. They include an overview lesson, an advanced lesson, and a lesson on settings. And this concludes this Patton Academy lesson on call-based alert rules. Thanks for watching.